Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I've got an unusual program for you today. And I would like to be able to put all of it on here, but I absolutely positively know that YouTube and others would absolutely not let this go out. So, the topic is shocking. Are there people that are poisoning our food? Is there a plan to poison our food? Now, I would love to be able to tell you the truth. I'd love to be able to put this out there, but I know it would not make it 30 minutes. And if we were lucky, they'd only take it down. But last time, saying this kind of stuff is what simply got our whole channel deleted. So I'm not going to take the chance. To get this, here's what you're going to have to do. And I recommend you, it's worth it. I recommend you go to watchprophecyclub.com. It's that good. And it was made back in 2005, 20 years ago. So information I'm going to be bringing to you today is 20 years old, but you probably have not got it. Why? See, we think everything is available to us on the internet. We can go to YouTube and you get anything. No, you can't. And I'm going to show you that today. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a DVD that was recorded in 2005, 20 years ago. So we had Stan Monteith actually made 3 DVDs for us, an extremely good speaker. 25 years worth of DVDs can be found at watchprophecyclub.com. 160 speakers, 300 talks, $20 a month, $200 a year. First 3 days are free. So everything I'm showing you today, you don't even have to pay for. You can go up there and watch it for free. But I recommend you go up there and watch a lot more. You can stop anytime, there's no contracts. Okay, so in 2005, we invited Dr. Stan Monteith to come in to speak at the Prophecy Club. And this is what he talked on. He says, could there be an elite group of people that plan to reduce the world population and see this as a good thing to reduce the number of useless eaters? Sadly, yes. So his topics are, now if you look carefully, you'll see I have scratched through some of the words. And the reason is, in a court of law, it is my understanding that if a word is scratched through like that, legally, it is not on there. But you can look there and you can figure out what the word is, and you will see several times in the program today that there will be silence coming out. But I put the text over on the side so you can see what he's saying. But if you want to get all of it, and you do want to get all of it, you're going to have to go to watchprophecyclub.com. So here's his topics. His first topic is artificial fertilizers, pesticides, injections, immunizations, and genetically altered seeds, cell phones, diet drinks, soy products, mercury preservatives, MSG, suppressed cures, chemtrails, anthrax, cancer treatments, created diseases, and DDT. Now, I'm just going to read a couple of news articles that say that this is basically coming, okay? It's all of this information about what's going on is now, thanks to Bobby Kennedy, is coming out. Acetaminophen used during pregnancy and children's risk of autism, ADHD, and intellectual disability is being investigated, according to this article. Trump links autism and Tylenol. Is there any truth to it? Mount Sinai study supports evidence that prenatal acetaminophen may be linked to increased use or risk of autism and ADHD. Okay, so something's doing it. Matter of fact, probably acetaminophen is probably guilty, but it's probably not the only guilty one, as you're about to discover, if I have enough room to play that. Yale School of Public Health says, what the research says about autism and acetaminophen use during pregnancy, and it goes on to explain. Here's another one. FDA responds to evidence of possible association between autism and acetaminophen use during pregnancy, and you can read the article, but we won't today. Watch, RFK Jr. and health officials move to phase out artificial dyes from our food supply. Okay. Why would they put something that is not eligible, let me rephrase that is not edible, our body can absorb, and that it might be and probably is bad for us. Why would they put that in the food? Surely they're not trying to kill us. Surely they're not trying to make us sick. So we have to go to their pharmaceutical company and buy a bunch of pharmaceuticals. Okay, in other words, wait a minute. Could this be where we throw out the tax onto the road so that the cars driving down the road get flats and have to come in and get us to fix the flats? So could this be the pharmaceutical company? Surely not. Surely not. No, I know they wouldn't do this. Where they're making us sick, so we have to turn around and buy. No, I'm not even going to say it. They wouldn't do that. The Hill says which companies have agreed to drop artificial food dyes, and it goes on talking about them. RFK wants the food industry to stop using synthetic dyes. You've heard about this. Walmart sets a timeline for removing synthetic dyes and other additives from food brands. Now, I say all of this to say this. Obviously, something bad has been getting put in our food for a long time. That's my point. Now, that leads us to the next question. So, what other things have been done to the American population to hurt us? Surely they wouldn't do that. Well, if they do it with our food, does it stand to reason that they're doing it in other places? Come on, be sensible about it, right? Okay. Tracking food industry pledges to remove petroleum-based food dyes, and it goes on to list them. FDNC green, number 3, FDNC red, number 40, FDNC yellow. It lists a lot of the, and you know what? Some of them are made from crude oil. They're feeding us crude oil. Now, I'm not an expert. I can't say that this is killing us or giving us autism, but there should have been someone somewhere along the line saying, hey, this is not good. Well, what you're about to discover is, yes, there was some people saying, hey, this is not good. Hey, we should not be doing this. But of course, since we don't control the media, the devil does, they couldn't get the word out, and I think you're going to hear him say that several times. So HHS and FDA to phase out petroleum-based synthetic dyes in the nation's food supply. Petrochemical-based dyes to natural alternatives, they're phasing them out. And in that process, they are planning to revoke authorization on things like citrus red, number 2, orange B within the coming months. Eliminate 6 remaining synthetic dyes, it lists them, going to outlaw them. And they're also going to come out with some others that are natural that they could have been and should have been using. Anyway, you can stop and read the whole thing if you want to. Now, I covered this yesterday. I see no reason to read it again today. You can pause and read it if you want to. But let me get to the part I want to point to. Look at the yellow. We will keep their lifespan short and their minds weak. I think that while we can't prove this is true, it's probably true. Matter of fact, the program that I did yesterday on this has got probably more positive response than any program we've done in a long time. A lot of people emailed me and said, hey, Stan, good for you, way to go. I really like the program. So let me point out a couple of things because I'm extending this, okay? We will use soft metals, aging accelerators, and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure from many fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin. Okay, like for example, that aluminum stuff they put in Under Armour deodorant, I hadn't used that in years because I heard that was bad. I heard that aluminum in your body, is again, I don't know if this is true, but it brings on Alzheimer's. And like, for example, I threw away aluminum pots and pans, anything aluminum, I threw that away long, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, a long time ago, because I heard aluminum was bad. And yet we're still using it under our arms. We're still eating out of it. Okay. What about the grocery stores, or what about the restaurants? Or what about other places? Are they using aluminum? Are they cooking in aluminum pots and pans? Yes, many of them are. So the poisons will be absorbed through their skin, their mouths, and they'll destroy their minds and reproductive systems. So let me explain about this guy. We had him talk in 2005, Dr. Stan Monteith. And if you go to watchprophecyclub.com, you can watch the whole talk. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And I'm only going to play like 5 minutes of it today. But I think you'll get the idea of just how good he is and just how good and reliable his information is. So let me cover a couple of things. The first topic is, so let's get into water. I can't say that. So I'm going to let Dr. Stan Monteith say it for me.
Let's get into water. 67% of the United States cities are. What does do? Well, I gave you a little mnemonic because sometimes it's easy to remember. I find it's easy to remember. Fertility. F for fertility. Decreases fertility. All sorts of studies on that. Frenny's work has done that. Animal studies have done it. It decreases the testosterone level. So there are actually at least 6 separate studies showing that it decreases fertility. And then we wonder why women are having difficulty getting pregnant and why testosterone levels are down. And do you know a better way to cut their fertility in a country than to poison their water? I mean, certainly you go back and you remember what Francis Crick was talking about in 62. Let's put something in the water to control fertility. What were they talking about in 1971 in family planning perspective? We'll put something in the water to control fertility. And they put something in the water to control fertility. We call it. And then, of course, it lowers the intellect. And in China, they found out that if you, in the areas where they had high levels of in the water, why they locked 10 points off the IQ. It produces cancer and bone cancer and other types of cancer. In fact, there's a recent report within the last a few weeks about a doctor back at Harvard who did a study and altered the results because it showed that it increased cancer of the bone, and he changed that, and now they're investigating him. At least somebody believes in scientific integrity. Although I hate to say this, but there is very little integrity in science today. It produces osseous changes, increases hip fractures, produces thyroid dysfunction, it produces infirmity, arthritis, premature aging, heart disease. In Newburgh, New York, where they did the original study, at the end of 10 years, there was perhaps a little less dental caries, at least they said there was, but there was twice as much heart disease. And nobody ever mentioned that. You can read that in a book called Deception, and we have the studies double the heart disease, and then we wonder why heart disease is increasing all across America.
Okay, now the next topic is hormone. I dare not say those two words together because there are powerful people in high places that want that in our fish, chickens, eggs, our beef, and then it makes it grow big and fat. Then we eat it, it makes us grow big and fat. And we wonder why we need to lose weight. Okay? So here he is talking about this.
Commented, tormented. The government won't allow them to say that. In Europe, people are refusing to eat food. People in the United States aren't even allowed to know there's a problem. And people are going to die, I believe, in the millions because of this. What will be the effect 20 years from now? Well, we do know what happened when they gave stilbestrol to women. When I first went into medicine, where we used to give stilbestrol to women to prevent miscarriages. And 20 years down the line, we found out that their daughters, so many of them got cancer of the vagina and cancer of the vulva, and they just had to excise everything, and the women's lives were destroyed. It took 20 years to find out. But you're all eating with BT and certain and all the other things we know with some of the tomatoes, they kill the experimental animals they were used on. And anybody who talks about this loses their job. Is this going on? You need to get the facts. They're out there. It's on the internet.
Now, let's go to cell phones. I think I can say cell phones safely, but there are a lot of other words in here I dare not say. Now, we heard about this 20, 25 years ago. Oh, cell phone's bad for you, bad for you. So even if we're warned, we don't listen. I got a cell phone right here. I will say, men carrying it in your pocket and wondering why you can't have children. Let me say it again. Carrying your cell phone in your pocket and then wondering why you can't have children. Did you catch that? Okay. Watch.
Cell phones. Do you know that cell phones are related to auditory neuromas, brain tumors, DNA damage, headache, memory problems, and mental problems? And now, they're actually one of the major manufacturers of cell phones. hired a scientist to study to prove they were safe. He found out that they were producing all these problems and tumors and metal changes, and so they fired him. He's been trying to get the word out, but I wonder how many of you have heard of it, his material. A University of Washington scientist did studies with cell phones and portable telephones. He found out there was DNA damage done to the cells in the brain. Actually, we have the article that put out by the University of Washington. They were threatened and told they would be sued and they would lose all of their grants from this major corporations if they put the truth out. And they said, we're going to do it anyway. And they published these articles, but didn't do much good because most of you have never heard of the studies done at the University of Washington pointing out how cell phones are damaging the DNA of our heads and predisposing us to cancer. And you go any place you want to today, and there's always somebody with that cell phone talking on it. Then we go to chemtrails. Of course, those people don't know what chemtrails are. They're certainly, spraying being done by the government under contract. Congressman Kucinich has talked about that. We have the government studies, the government documents that actually admit that this is part of a program to do away to combat global warming.
Okay, now let's talk about, I dare not even say that word. Matter of fact, I think that's the word that got us in trouble last time. So here it is.
And so if the doctors, most of them aren't going to write the company, but if they did write to the company would say, well, you should write to the FDA. So the doctors really aren't going to write to the FDA, but if they did write to the FDA would say, well, we don't know, because the company hadn't told the FDA about all their studies. And they let the people die. And according to Dr. Graham, there were about 88,000 heart attacks. Another study, 160,000, somewhere between 88,000 and 160,000 people had either strokes or heart attacks, and they knew what was going to happen. But of course, they made $26 billion last year selling statin drugs. But I do not believe this is all about money. I believe there is also another agenda.
And then we're going to talk about this, and I probably can't say that word either. And there might be some other words in there I shouldn't be saying either. So we're going to listen to Dr. Stan Monteith talk about it.
Of course, we know that officials at the NIH, National Institute of Health, are getting grants from the drug companies. We know that FDA officials are concealing the danger of what's going on. Versus chlorinated hydrocarbon. Actually, rats won't eat split. They're a lot smarter than people are. Tobacco is extremely addicting. Of course, we know that it produces cancer, not only of the lung, but it also produces cancer of the larynx, and it produces cancer of the esophagus and of the bladder. And the government's known this for many years. And now the tobacco companies, since they can't market it here, are marketing throughout the rest of the world. The only reason, of course, that there was really, this whole thing was brought out was because the medical profession, one of the few good things that they did was come out against tobacco. And then, of course, the trial lawyers, bless their hearts, their greedy little hearts, but they really did, of course, demonstrate exactly. The tobacco companies knew all along they were killing millions of people with their products. And then, of course, recently there was a government trial, a federal trial, and they were going to collect, the federal government was going to collect $135 billion from the tobacco industry, and it looked like slam dunk, except the Justice Department recently recommended they reduce it to $10 billion rather than 135, which they could have got. So I think you understand what this is really all about. Let's get to, and of course, are necessary, safe, and effective. That's what they're told. They're used to prime the immune system, of course, so that the children will be able to fight off disease. But is this really true? We'll go back 1796. Edward Jenner introduced smallpox in 1929. They knew at that time it's dangerous. In 1943.
Okay, now you noticed I stopped right in the middle of that sentence because that's as far as I can go. And you see that one word down there in the bottom left-hand corner? I can't let that word out because that's a bad word. In other words, if you tell people what's really going on, they take you off. They take you down. So you want to go to watchprophecyclub.com, and it looks like the picture behind me. Watchprophecyclub.com. You get to watch 25 years. We used to have a meeting every month, okay? Sometimes 2 meetings a month. Well, sometimes 40 meetings a month. But I mean, there was a time we were making 2 or 3 tapes a month. Anyway, 25 years, 160 speakers, over 300 talks, $20 a month, $200 a year, best deal going. This one is called Planned Population Reduction by Dr. Stan Monteith. Planned Population Reduction, Dr. Stan Monteith. Go watch it. You get the first 3 days free, but after you watch a few of them, you're going to say, look, this is a good deal. Spend $20. Helps Prophecy Club, helps you. $20 a month, $200 a year, and I even think that they got some kind of special going on up there right now. WatchProphecyClub.com. WatchProphecyClub.com. Go watch it. Okay, the very best offer we have ever had of the Prophecy Club is 40 books for a gift of $100. That is How Pre-Trib Won, Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, God's Warnings to America, Miss the Mark, and The Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy. I'll explain. As I've said many times in 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I got 30 revelations, 2 visions, and an audible voice. God showed me a secret door, the word first fruits, which is found in Leviticus and also Revelation, that links the feasts to the prophecies of Revelation. And perhaps for the first time, Revelation can be understood. One prophetic word said, there's a lock. I put over every word in the book of Revelation. I'm going to open it to you. It will turn many books written on the end-time message into obsolete books. That's this book. Secondly, I put together a collection of the very best prophecies from 32 years in Bible prophecy: Dimitri Duduman, Michael Boldale, Leslie Johnson, Henry Groover, Shane Warren, Terry Bennett, Maurice Sklar, Augusto Perez, Doug Metzger, Bree Keaton, and more in God's Warnings to America. Also, how do you talk to people about the mark of the beast, especially if they worship another god? Well, simple way is give them this book. It's a quick read, takes about 3 hours to read it. But if they'll read 2 or 3 pages, they'll probably read the book. And if they read the book, they will never take the mark of the beast. It explains both the mark of the beast and also the number of the name, and it has these pictures in the book. Finally, How Pre-Trib Won. This book explains the truth about the rapture. It gives 4 foundations for the real truth about the rapture. It also answers 25 pre-trib questions, 1 for $20, each one of these typically, but don't do that. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets. The very best deal is go to prophecyclub.com and get the entire 40-book set for $100. I didn't cover every verse in the book of Daniel, didn't need to. I just covered the verses that has to do with us end-time saints. And it's called Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, 1 for $20, 10 for $30, 20 for $50 at prophecyclub.com. If you don't want to lose your life's savings, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the thing to do is call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. These folks are Christians, and they specialize in helping people not lose their life savings in the event of a stock market crash and things like that. Look, most of the 401ks, most of the IRAs are in paper, backed by paper. And as Lindsey Williams says, if it's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You can lose it all. 1-800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. Hey, give them a call. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't cost you anything. See if they can give you some good advice. If you want to be on the end of making money, gold and silver is preserving your money. If you want to be on the end of making money, then you might want to call prophecyclubcrypto.com, or actually go to it, or call that number at the bottom right corner. Ask them about crypto if you're in the position where you can make money.